Welcome to Dirty Secrets University, where tuition is the cost of a free subscription, and hitting the bell will set reminders so you never have to miss class again. Welcome to day stacking. This goes without saying, you can't day stack without a sync map, so make sure you have watched the class before in order for you to be all caught up. A day stack is an organized session which includes all video and audio files in sync to one another. The session has all clips color-coded and placed in their appropriate and labeled tracks. Your day stack will also have subdaystacks and interviews with transcriptions that are also organized and labeled. So let's get started. We have our handy dandy Premiere day stack session open. I'm going to move this for now. And we are going to import our XML files. So you just click and drag the XML. It is just loading, but it's loading on the other window. So there you go. It's gonna be looking something like this. So this is what our sync map looks like, which is awesome. But we are going to organize these files. So I remember that we have ACAM, we have BCAM, and we have audio. So we're going to organize this media. So ACAM, BCAM, and audio. We are going to bring this out of this is now empty, so we can delete. We are going to create a director folder, a media folder, and a adjustment layer folder. We're also going to have a daystack folder, and that's going to live in the director folder. And this sync map, we are going to get rid of the title sync map and add daystack. All right, so this is what we are looking for. We have 1 media, 2 adjustment layer, and 3 director. The adjustment layer is going to live empty for a while, and the director is what the director is going to be working out of. Like, nobody's really going to be using the media after you have built all the daystacks. We're also going to have subdaystacks. And we are going to have a interview folder, and that's also going to live in the director. These are also going to live empty for now, but this is generally what my session looks like. Yeah, let's just open this one. It's already open, so we have all the clips here except for the slow-mo clips that we didn't import. So we're going to actually grab these. Oh, it's so hard working off of 2 screens, man. All right, so we're gonna grab these and tag them underneath everything we just built. And they're gonna just live here for a moment. And then you're gonna click them all and drag them into our session. And you wanna bring them at the end. When you import this media, I'm gonna just delete it to show you again. When you import this media, it's going to be highlighted. But if you leave it highlighted and click and drag it straight into my session, good Lord. It's not going to have it in chronological order. It'll skip from like 33 to 37 to 9 to 36. So how to bypass this is when you import your media, deselect everything and reselect it, and it'll import in chronological order. It's just this silly thing from Premiere. So now if we zoom in, we'll clearly see that it goes 9, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. And that's a blessing for later in life. So we know that slow-mo clips don't have audio, so these are going to live empty. And I'm just going to readjust There we go. All right, so now theoretically, all of our clips should be included in our session, and we are going to double check that. I'm just gonna drop this down to the A cam and move this up so they're all in line with each other. And then once that's done, I would move these clips to their appropriate location. There we go. All right, so in my line of work, we label B cam as in pink, so that's gonna be rose. So we're gonna leave that there. And if we go in this window and toggle this show source clip name and label, it'll turn these pink. And that's good because we just wanna make sure that all my A cam are on one track and the B cams are on a separate track. Sometimes if you import your sync map, you'll have something like this, which would be an indicator that this is an A cam clip because it's this blue color and not pink color. So if that was happening, you would want to manually move them to their appropriate tracks. Once you double check your work in this order, I would uncheck this, and from this point on, I would make sure this is on and turn these pink or rose while this is toggled off, so that if I toggle between the two, there's no discrepancies, which I have previously shown in the past videos. I had to turn the tool window open because my hotkey was Shift A to select everything of its category on certain tracks, and without this toolbar open, that key command won't work. So again, that was Shift A. And if you're looking to go the other way, you just hit A and then Shift A. So the two arrows will select everything. The single arrow will select the row of the clips with its attached media, and same thing with the other direction. So those are a combination of A, Shift A, and Shift A. So just practice with that. And if you hit V on the keyboard, it'll bring you back to this regular mouse. So this is now at a good spot. Moving forward, I would delink my selection so that I can freely grab whatever I choose. I'm going to remove all of these empty audio tracks because they are not useful to our session. It's just eating up information that we aren't necessarily needing. So these were my slow-mo clips, and these we're going to place manually later. So if you want, you can put like a little marker to indicate that these clips are not in their appropriate spot. All right, so I'm going to, so how I organize my session is I go audio at the top, and then it'll go A cam, and then it'll go B cam. So A cam, if you hit Option and the arrow keys, it'll toggle your clips down without altering their spot, and that's good. And so I would drag these audio clips and hit Shift and click and drag so they can't move out of their time code. And I'm going to undo that and show you if I just select and move up, you can also you risk the desyncing everything that your sync map just built. So as a safety precaution, just hit Shift and then move, and then you'll be good. You also cannot select and press Option with your arrow keys. It'll eat your clips. So again, select, Shift, move all the way up. We're actually going to bring them down too, because if we hit an audio box and you hit reveal in Finder, it'll open up this window, and we're going to continue down this path, open with you're looking for text edit, and if you open, it'll give you information on this audio clip. So I'm gonna move this out of the way. We know that strike 1 is your left mix, strike 2 is your right mix, strike 3 is your boom, and then strike 4 is your lav. Right here it says Carol, but I just know for sure that since we have multiple interviews, there might be more than just Carol on this track. They just labeled it as Carol because it was probably the first one. And so eventually as we build this stack, we're gonna separate each person. But for right now, the important part is we have our left, our right, our boom, and our lav. So how we organize it is we go boom, all the lavs, and then your left, and then your right. So these 2 tracks are going to move to the top of the food chain. So now it goes boom, Carol, lav, left and right, and then these clips can just tie underneath. I'm gonna undo that and show you something cool. So if we have a lot of empty audio tracks, instead of manually deleting them all one by one, you can go delete tracks with an S, and it'll ask you, do you want to delete all empty audio tracks? Okay, and then it'll just condense your session. From here, I would hit save because a lot of our work has been done. So before we check on sync, I can very clearly see that there is a piece of my video that has been eaten because you can't see the end little triangles here. So if I'm just gonna retoggle my link selection so that the audio moves with my video clip. I'm gonna just shove that over for now and see if I can stretch this out open. So you could. I think it was only just a frame. This is pretty much dead information because when they were shooting, I'm assuming that this video just carried over. So we're gonna undo that and just watch and see if there's any glitches happening or missing frames, or if it's just a seamless transition. So we're just gonna watch. So it was seamless, and I'll show you an example if it wasn't seamless. Like say my video ended here and this had tagged here. We can very clearly see that that was not a continuation of that frame. It kind of had like a little blimp. Hopefully you could see that. So I'm gonna undo it, and because it was seamless, we are gonna leave this and just go double check to see if any other clips have been eaten. So we have 2 little triangles on each clip. That's good. And these ones should be fine because they're so spaced out. Sometimes the audio will be missing a little triangle and you physically cannot stretch it out. That does happen. So as long as you check, you should be good. So from this point on, you can either label your clips or just start checking the sync on how your sync map did. I think for simplicity's sake, and because we will be adding more audio tracks to correlate with how many people they're interviewing, I will label later. So for now, let's just zoom in and just listen to see if everything is in sync, basically. And like your audio files are very good indicators that things are working, or aligned rather. And you also have to listen to it because if they're off by like a frame or something, it sounds like a little hollow. So let's just hit play and turn it down because I don't know how loud it is.
Il y a eu plusieurs choses. Je pense que l'Association des théâtres francophones du Canada en est vraiment pour quelque chose parce que c'est.
So to me that looks and sounds good. Sometimes I'm just going to shift this over by a few so that you can hear what a bad sync map would be and how you can fix it. So just going to move those over a few. Slide play.
Il y a eu plusieurs choses. Je pense que l'association des
So you can kind of hear that it's doubling itself. It has two sentences saying the same thing, but they're not in sync.
Il y a eu plusieurs choses.
So that's what we're checking essentially, to make sure that everything is in sync. Because if you look at it from this angle, you're like, oh yeah, like every little nick and cranny looks pretty spot on. But if you zoom in, we can see that they're very much not aligned. So if you find yourself having to move clips, I recommend you leave all of your audio in place and move your camera according to the green. Because if you go down this line and like, let's say this one's off and this one's off, and like you move the audio here and then you move the camera here and then you're moving audio, you're just risking a lot more discrepancies as you're trying to align everything. So make sure you have like a grounding point where those clips never move and everything else around it does move, if that makes any sense. So I'm just gonna undo what I did because it was in the right place. So I also just want to mention that when you record sound, you have the boom and then your cameras pick up that sound at a different spot in the room, and sound travels at different speeds. So you're gonna get the same recording but in a different place, if that makes any sense. Like sound moves and like it's gonna pick up that sound at a different spot in accordance to where you are standing. So having very small, like half of a frame discrepancies is pretty much as far as you can go. Because if I move this over, you can see that it won't perfectly be in line, but you just get it as close as you possibly can. Like these are not starting at the same place, but if I shift them over, they'll still be off. See how this green starts here and the blue starts here, and then if you move it over, the blue starts here and the green's over here now. So this is when your ears come into play and you just...
Il y a eu plusieurs choses.
And that sounds perfectly good to me. So we have our blue is our A cam and B is our B cam, and we had labeled them as interview and interview. So that's also a good indicator that they did a good job, because they're just two different camera angles filming the same thing, and you can kind of toggle between the two views. So it's also your responsibility to make sure that A cam and B cam are in line. So you can see that his head is tilted one way and his hands are kind of crossed. These are visual cues. And same thing here, his head is tilted and his hands are kind of crossed. And if you kind of toggle through his mouthing and his actions, like his hand is here. So if you take this off, his hand should also be up. So that's a good indicator that everything is in sync for this clip. And then you have your camera audio down here as well.
And it's pretty loud.
So this audio will probably pick up a lot of the cameramen.
Well, it's just coming in right now.
So that's the
No, it
cameraman
was coming in
speaking
for a
slash the
while.
director.
It was.
And so these clips will be the actual audio that they're using, which is why they're at the top of the food chain. This will all make sense once everything is built. So let's do the next clip.
Aussi, un autre exemple de ça,
So that sound is the tentacle.
le théâtre
That's fine.
sont nés.
This is just this one. If I deselect this and I mute this, that's Command Shift E.
Comme
You'll
des
hear it.
structures
It's gone
amateurs,
away.
et se sont
At the end of our
professionnalisés.
session, we will be doing exactly that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it.
C'est pas qu'on est choyé.
So sounds good to me. Let's keep going down. So if you have videos that it's really hard to sync. Sometimes you'll have the luxury of having somebody clap, or in this case, we have the marker sound. So this is super awesome if this is your only thing. Like this, you just align the claps and then everything else will follow. So we can very clearly see that this is not synced very well. We have a double clap. And we don't like that. So we're gonna shift this over. Because I have nothing on either end, if I move them, it won't affect clips next to each other. So I'm going to move the green clips to align with everything else, to align with the video. So that's better.
Comédien de metteur en scène comme Valère Mahé, Reine Mahé, Claude Dorge. Alors, il y a cette espèce de cocon de bouillonnement qui a créé.
Right on.
Il y a toute une dimension.
So the hands are going.
Il revenant, il va sur eux.
So hands, 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 perfect. Facial expression is the same, so that looks good to me. Good practice to keep hitting save as you work along. And right now I'm just using the plus and the minus keys to zoom in and out efficiently. So this one also seems to be off. I will be moving the green.
Alors je trouve que c'est une peu grande.
So you can hear that that's out of sync, so they call it. So, you guessed it, shoving that over. And you can hear how it's a little less empty. Yeah, that's even better. So we're gonna leave it there.
Il y a eu d'abord l'affaire Forêt. L'affaire Forêt, c'est aussi en 76, 76, 79.
So I can just tell
Forêt,
here and see that it's off. So again.
Forêt, c'était un métis de scène.
So your sync map tool is a godsend because it did most of the dirty work for us, and now we're just refining that. These audio clips at the end, yeah, we're just gonna leave that for now. I think that I'm going to cut these. Okay, so I'm doing this because I highly doubt, well, let's listen.
C'est cyclé, puis une fois que tu arrives près du micro, comme d'ici,
Okay, yeah.
continue à la vitesse que tu vois.
There's not always going to be audio attached to video. That's very normal, and I think that's exactly what's happening in this case. I believe that this is all those B-roll clips with not necessarily important audio attached to it. So for now, I'm just going to cut this. Command Shift Paste, and it'll tag it to the end of my session without overriding anything else. And leave it there for now. And at this point, we are going to be closing gaps. So I've set up a hotkey for myself. If you go keyboard shortcuts and you hit close gaps, I've set it to Option plus C, which will close all my gaps, so remove all the spaces between videos, which I like to do at this point to then continue organizing without having everything too spaced out. So make sure that everything is in sync, and then we're going to Command A to select all, Option C to close gaps. And if we remember correctly, we still have our slow-mo clips to place. We can clearly see that the frame size is different. So we can select all. I will remove attributes first because we can see that there's yellow boxes, and that means that an effect has been put on these clips. And I'm just gonna remove it as a blank slate for now. Remove attributes. And we're gonna go remove everything, okay? Those yellow markers are going to remove. And then since everything is still selected, at this point we will scroll all the way down and set frame to size, which will adjust our video to fit to the appropriate frame. And it will give a yellow box as indicator that something has been affected. That is also an important step. So we're gonna zoom back in. We're going to manually place slow-mo clips. So I'll just move them over for now. So clip 10, cut, or clip 9, cut, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6, 8, 9. So according to how they film this, clip 9 should be tagged here. If I just paste my clip, it'll overwrite everything, which is why I had mentioned Command Shift V, and it'll move everything over so it doesn't overwrite anything. So this clip is her riding her bike on the bridge, which in chronological order of activities, this seems to go here. She is still riding her bike. Yeah, so I'm gonna put that actually at the end of 10. I know that it's not in order. It now goes 8, 10, 9. But we have this little B-roll clip. See, this is where you gotta use your brain. I'm, like I said, doing this completely raw so you can see the whole entire thought process of everything. There are multiple ways you can do this. You can either put all the slow-mo clips at the end of every relevant video, and you kind of want to group things together. So it would be like the main action and then the slow-mo action and then the next action and then the slow-mo action. You want to try to keep things in chronological order as much as possible, but I'm going to be putting all of my B-roll together and all of her riding the bike together. So right now I'm just trying to decide if I want to keep this in chronological order, or like this is B-roll, this is her still riding a bike. So I'm just trying to decide if I want to put this at the end of all of her riding a bike. Do you know what I'm saying? So maybe we will do that. So I'm going to just take a moment. So this is B-roll, this is her riding a bike, this is her riding a bike, her riding a bike. So these clips are her riding a bike. I'm gonna put them ahead of that slow-mo clip. So this is the church. This is her riding a bike, her riding a bike. You know what? See, as I'm doing this, I'm going to undo everything and actually keep it in chronological order. And I have decided this because she is biking to a very far distance. So I don't really want to alter that bike path too much. Like, she's slow-mo on this bridge, which makes sense with this bridge and blah, blah, blah. And then she's biking like near a church. So I don't want to put her on the bridge at the end of her biking on the church. I'm hoping this makes sense. So I'm gonna put it right there. My working color is purple, so I'm going to label this B-roll purple so that I know where to find it when I'm looking for it. So right now it's her biking, 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 still biking. This is the church. I'm going to also label this purple to organize myself. This is her biking, biking, biking. This is still her biking. These were, all three of these are B-roll. So essentially I'm just labeling the ones that aren't her on a bike. And this is her arriving to the location. Perfect. So this is a different idea now. She's walking in the thing, in the hallway. And then this is all just building B-roll. Perfect. So this is all gonna be B-roll. This is all B-roll. So in theory, this is what I would do. Because I want to separate those ideas. So this is all of my B-roll, and this is all of her on the bike, and I purposely put slow-mo in chronological order because of the journey that she's on. So now, yes, the order is no longer really in order, but at least it's grouped in such a way that actually makes sense, especially for when you are doing your sub-day stacks, which we will get to later. So we still have our slow-mo clips to place. These all seem to be B-roll, like she's not in it. So that tags along nicely with our B-roll activity. So these can all go back to the iris color that it was. We no longer need this tag, delete, double click delete, because we have everything in its place. Command A to select all, Option C to close gaps, and everything is just laid out back to back, no spaces, very well organized, and we love that. Hit save. So at this point, I haven't changed the start time code because it can come in handy when you have to align clips that haven't been sync mapped. Like it'll space themselves out, and it's just something you should do near the end, which is a good spot for us to do this. So click the hamburger, start time 8 zeros, and boom, your timeline starts at 0. We like that. So we are going to add an extra video track. Just one is good. It'll tag it at the beginning. You're going to open this. We're going to rename. This is A cam. Rename. This is B cam. And I was going to name this LUT, but I'm going to not for a second. So I'm going to open up my info window so you can see. There you go. Okay, so I just want you to see that the info window is nice. Instead of having all of your tracks labeled like this, we're going to change the label and they will match accordingly, which is good. So I was going to name this LUT, but I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to build the other day stacks and you'll see why. So this was our boom track. This was our lab track, and this was our left mix and right mix. I don't delete tracks, all empty. So we have our A cam 1, A cam 2, and our B cam. And I'm going to leave this lab one. I guess we could do it right now. So now you can see right over here, it's nice and organized. I know for a fact I'm gonna have to add some audio tracks because we want one character per track, because when whoever is in charge of mixing and mastering this session, it will be so much easier for them to add EQ to their individual tracks for each person, because each person sounds different. So because we spent the time logging, we can clearly see that this is Mark talking again, keep scrolling. This is Roger talking, this is Wilgus talking, and this is Carol. So each lav track that are all on the same track right now are going to be broken up into different. So I know that these are the same. So we have 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, 4 person, 5 person. We have 5 people, which means I'm going to add an extra 4 tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to reopen this so I can actually see. This we don't need. So this track is gonna be Mark Lav. And this is kind of good to do on your first day stack if you can, so that you can just copy paste this timeline with all the appropriate labeling, so that you don't have to redo this 1,000,000,001 times. So this character is Jacqueline. So Jacqueline, we're going to deselect so we can just move this one. Option down, down, down. Jacqueline is on the last, so rename Jacqueline Lav. And that's what I was saying before when it had just said Carol. I don't know why they chose the name Carol, but I had a feeling that they were just gonna use the same lav for each person, and that lav was labeled Carol. But yeah, just something to think about. So this is Carol. And sometimes it's not really so obvious. Like we're lucky in this example that they're interviews, so they're obviously just going to be 1 person per lav. But sometimes if they're like in a setting with more than 1 person, like everyone's kind of talking over each other, and you really just got to solo each track and listen to who's talking and just get yourself familiar with the voices and the characters and label tracks appropriately. So that's Carol. This is Wilgus. And this is Roger. All right, cool. So that is awesome. Everybody, and these both were Mark as we had previously established. So again, our session is getting larger, but this is organization, man. In order to toggle all of, see how some are blue and some are not, and same thing with the video. If you hit Command 0, it can toggle on and off the video, and Command 9 toggles on and off. This is useful because if you want to flip through video, this will be a good example. Let's say I don't have, let's just toggle all of them off. So if I hit my arrow keys, you can kind of jump around from frame to frame. So you can see how it's jumping from the blue to the start of the green to the start of the pink to the end of the blue to whichever next mark is in line. And say you want to just toggle through the blue, then you highlight that specific one and it'll just target everything on the blue track without including the others. So same thing if you want just the pink. And that can be useful for many reasons. I use it often, and something to keep in mind, like if you're trying to do that and it's not working. So I like to work with them on mainly for now because I like to just jump around as I please. But it does come in handy. I have left this one empty for a specific reason. We're going to minimize this so I can open this. So I know, well, I thought I had a C cam, but I guess we don't. I thought for sure, but for an example, when we get to this day, there is no B cam, but we want every single timeline to look exactly the same. So even if you don't have clips in that specific track, you still want a track to be created for it as long as you're in the same project, so that the editor can freely move clips from different day stacks and different timelines without clips overlapping each other. So again, organization is key. Because we only have A cam and B cam, my top track is always going to be the LUT layer. And the LUT layer, I guess I could do right now since we're talking about it, is what adds a specific shade or color to clips in accordance to what you want. So I have a LUT on my computer, I hope. All right, I'm just gonna have to plug in a different hard drive, or just turn it on rather, so I can get access to it. So bear with me. All right, so that's gonna load. So just give me 1 second and then we can do that. But I guess we can do the initial of it. So we have adjustment layer, which is our LUT. So right now it's sitting empty. So we're gonna click right down here, new item and adjustment layer. We are working here. Yep. Perfect. So I'm gonna click and drag this in here. Perfect. My RAID has connected. How handy dandy. So we are going to hit window, volumetric color. Yep. So double click this. It's going to open up your lumetric color window. And we are going to add our own one that has already been pre-made for me. So I'm just gonna go get it. It is on my other working file. So here it is. So I like to rename, copy the name of this LUT, and it'll enter itself in here. And I also want to copy that same name here so we know what LUT is being applied to what. So now that we have manually inputted our LUT, you can close this, and this LUT is now active, and we can click and drag it onto our timeline. It's kind of annoying. It comes up really tiny, but it is there, and you just stretch it out. So I'll just do half so you can see the difference. Like this is the color that they wanted, and this was the before. So you can see how it just brings so much life to the image. So at the end of my day stack, this is my final step for me personally. And that way, when I see my LUT, I'm like, oh yes, I completed my day stack. So this was a very easy day stack. We didn't come into very many troubles at all. We did have to resync a few things and organize a few things. Sometimes you can lock the LUT if you want, lock it in place, doesn't really matter. Because I'm not totally done with chopping up this day stack, we still have to create a sub day stack and the interview day stacks. I'm going to leave it unlocked, but for now, this is your first official completed day stack. Yeah, so I guess we can do another one. So if you close this, don't forget to press save. We're gonna restart that whole process all over again. So I'm going to bring back this window. Before I continue, I like to have these, my media folder, this cerulean color, and everything for the director I've been putting as yellow, just because that's what I'm doing in my current job. So I may as well keep things the same because I'm showing you how to do it. So we only have our first day, right? We only did 28, so we still have a few more to go, as in 2. So we have day 29. I usually do it one by one. You can kind of figure out a workflow that works best for you. But when I do this, I bring in all my media and I pre-organize my my timeline by just bringing in all the slow-mo clips and color coding them. And then after that's done, that's when I go in and make sure everything's synced and doing everything organized. But because I'm showing you guys, we're doing things a little differently. So back to this. Little hot tip again. If you select all and you shift B, audio, and it automatically put those things in a bin. Instead of just Command B, you're just creating a new bin. So if, I'll show you again, shift B, it'll auto generate the appropriate files you've selected. Sync map goes in our director folder, goes in our daystack folder. And I click this to make sure everything is going down in chronological order. All right, bcam is rows. This is what I was talking about. I'm gonna move this over, sorry guys. So we have this completed day stack with everything labeled and the tracks labeled. So to make my life easier, I'm just gonna duplicate this whole day stack, and this is now gonna become daystack 1029 daystack, and we are going to make sure, and I'm serious, make freaking sure that you are not in your completed one, that you opened your 29 day stack, and you're going to delete everything and open your other sync map, copy, paste into this timeline. And that way we have all of our naming tracks labeled, and you don't have to spend time doing that portion of your day stack. All right, from my memory box, I don't think that we had any slow-mo clips in this day. Yeah, I don't think so, but always good to double check. Sick, we don't. Right, back to business. So that makes for building this stack very easy. So again, let's toggle on, make sure that all of our clips are in line. Amazing. And here our hotkey, everything pink. We love pink. Again, same thing as before. I think this was just a camera cut. You can hear that it's out of sync, so we'll deal with that in a bit. I'm just trying to see visually, which it was seamless, amazing. Select all. We're going to take care of this stuff first. Remove attributes, okay, and we are going to set frame to size, and that will make our image spiffy. Because we copy pasted our timeline, it will be starting at 0 because that's how we had the other one. This timeline is now considered garbage, so we can delete that. All right, fun stuff. So uncheck this, get rid of all of our empty audio files. And here we have a lot of microphones, so that is so much fun. In this scenario, you do not want to delete all empty audio tracks because it will remove all of your hard work. So keep that in mind, and this is when you're going to be just manually editing everything. So we know that A cam comes before B cam, so that can just remain that way. We know that it goes, well, maybe your memory doesn't serve us right at the moment. So show in Finder, reveal in Finder. You know what? I'm going to select this one and reveal in Finder because it has way more audio files. So reveal, sorry, it popped up on the other side there. Okay, so left, right, boom. We already know that. So goes right, left, boom. So we want boom at the top. So just take everything. If you hit option, you don't have that freedom, remember? So, well, actually option duplicates everything, and that's also no bueno. So make sure you don't hit option. And those little lines that you saw are actually really handy dandy because it tells you if you have a duplicate of something, which is kind of a godsend sometimes. So we are going to reselect everything. shift up to the top. We know that these now follow because these are our right and left mix, and then A cam and B cam should follow. In theory, we will have to fact check, but all of these should hopefully be in their appropriate order with the labs. I'm confident that the boom and the left and the right are in their correct spots, but I will just have to move them down here, obviously. So these are going to be purple for me because I know that this is my working color and that those are definitely not in the right spot. Sick. But everything else is for now. Alright, so because I have a lot of empty tracks down here and I don't want to do them one by one, I'm just going to fill these empty tracks so that I can hit delete tracks, delete empty audio tracks, and those tracks will remain and all the other ones will be gone. So this is what I like to see. Alright, so I remember hearing that these were out of sync, so that's where we're at. We're gonna sync these puppies. Premiere is lovely like that sometimes, that it just decides to not show you your audio files if you zoom in too much, which is really annoying. Sometimes I would restart my computer and sometimes it helps, but because we are doing a video, we are not doing that. So I can pretty much tell by looking at it that the green and the pink are in the good spot in correspondence to each other. So for this one, again, knowing that there's nothing on each side and I can't eat up a different clip, I'm going to be moving my blue clip. Make sure that your link selection is on for this because you want to move the video and the audio at the same time. I'm going to show you what it looks like if you do it off. It will physically tell you, which is nice, that you're off, which is really nice. So if you see that, just undo and click and just do it properly, of course. Do everything properly. All right.
Il y avait une vingtaine de troupes de théâtre francophones au Manitoba. Une vingtaine.
That sounds and it looks good.
Oui, quand tu as vu ça sur scène,
So you can already hear that it's not in sync. And this is a good, like that is way off.
Oui, quand tu as vu ça sur scène, est-ce que je l'ai vu sur...
Way better. So now my pink one's off, but because I had just moved the blue one to the green, now these two become the clips that I don't move, and now the pink is going to move to that.
Je pense que je l'ai juste lu maintenant.
So because I moved that over and this clip was attached to it, I have now created an empty frame. So that's no good. And I'm just going to check to see if this one wants to be moved over.
Pas exactement pourquoi, mais ce sont ces petits détails.
L'encourageait ou c'était vouloir conserver la langue?
So it sounds good to me. You could stretch out this clip and it'll finish it.
Qui a osé.
No,
Qui a osé.
we don't like that. Okay, so I guess you're stuck shifting that over with it.
Roland qui a osé.
And that's just how it's gonna live. Sometimes you can get away with stretching out that clip, but not in this case. So. So that's just a mess. So blue is gonna move for sure, and I know for, there you go.
Ah oui, c'est pour les fétiches. C'est super drôle.
Awesome. Don't forget to hit save every once in a while. So that was our last clip of that session. Perfect. So I'm guessing this is just, oh, this is them reenacting. Nice. All right, I guess I will do that with you guys. It's a good example. So we didn't have any slow-mo clips to put in place. So this is a great time to close gaps because I like to work in a neat and tidy, not so stretched out environment. So I guess we will spend some time organizing these clips. And actually, well, for one, we're gonna fix that. Fixed. So now, if we remember, we had these characters in the first day, which is Roger, Carol, Jacqueline, all that, which now we have whole new characters. So we have Winnie, we have Colin, and we have Allison, which are these three actors. And I guess further down during the interviews, we have Roland, we have Lise, and Genevieve, which they also all need their appropriate tracks, which is now going to grow our session. So I want this toggled off. These are also not in place, so I'm going to label them purple. Because day 28 comes before day 29, I'm going to put all these new names at the end of Jacqueline. We have Colin, we have Allison, and we have Winnie. So add track, add track, add track. I'm gonna do Winnie first. Winnie Love, Colin Love, and Allison. Allison 2 or 1S. 1, perfect. And since we're in this window, I'm going to add Roland, Lise, and Genevieve. Okay, sick. So we know that this one is Genevieve, this one is Lise, and this one is Roland. So these okay, I'm just gonna put them all up here for now so we can bring them all down together. Sick. So I work a lot in color coded because it just makes my life easier, but it adds for a couple more clicks, so figure out a workflow that works best for you. It's also so annoying, like these colors that Premiere came up with, like, good lord. Okay, so
qu'on ait le temps de rentrer sur scène.
Je comprends. Pour moi, ça a été mon plus grand amour. Et maintenant, je m'en passerai plus.
C'est parce qu'on a
sounds good.
De notre amour,
des raisons qui font qu'on aime autant monter sur
Also sounds good.
Parce que c'est vivant, tu sais. C'est ça qui rend ça magique. Tu rentres sur scène, tu ressens l'énergie du public.
On a fait. Je pense que si.
So you saw me jump clips because I'm just spot checking. Like if nothing seems to be out of whack, they're probably all gonna not be out of whack. So far everything sounds good.
Mais c'est aussi important dans la mesure du possible de céder la place.
I'm just gonna see.
À ceux et à celles qui vivent ou ont vécu.
No. Okay. I thought maybe if I moved them all over one, but it didn't make a difference, so I just moved it back. So,
These are, we're here to shoot.
Okay, who's on me gig? Who's on me gig?
She needs to know her eyesight.
He's over here?
so I'm gathering here that
Aujourd'hui, je me dis c'était.
top track is Allison. And here I did Winnie, Colin, Allison, but I'm going to change that, I think. So I'm gonna do Allison at the beginning, because that's where it is.
C'est ça qui rend ça magique. Tu rentres sur scène, tu ressens l'énergie.
And that's Colin. And you can see here, because there are three, this is what I was talking about earlier, because there's three people playing all together, I'm still going to be able to hear different voices on different labs, but we're looking for the most crystal clear sound. Like, I can hear Colin's voice here through someone else's lab, but this is a very much more crisp sound of his voice, which is an indicator that it is his. That's Allison, then Colin, then of course the last one has to be Winnie. So Allison, Colin, and I changed the order of this because it's a lot easier for me to just bring everything down in its current order, as opposed to me taking this and moving it down here and bringing here up here how I had previously labeled it. So now that we have added all those tracks, these are all in good standing. Caribbean color. And now we have 17 audio tracks in this 29-day stack, and this one still has the 11. We do want that to match, so I don't really feel like manually adding 7 more tracks and renaming everything, so I'm going to duplicate my 29, and this is going to become delete, and this is going to become my 28 timeline. Okay, so make sure that you have everything open. So this is my delete one. This is also why I didn't lock the LUT. So you can select all, copy, paste. And then the only thing I will have to do is bring these down. And if you want to fact check that they're all in there, perfect. So I'm going to delete this. Perfect. Okay, so my computer is just glitching out from this power outage, so I think I'm gonna leave it here for today. But on your, I can't open the window right now, but on your project window, just make sure that you go delete that timeline, that daystack timeline that I had written delete next to it, and fix your typo. And so essentially you just want both your timelines to match, everything to be in order, and we're gonna add the LUT, but I can't because of these silly computer problems. And we didn't do this on the previous daystack, but you should. So once your daystack is complete, you just want to mute or deactivate these camera audio. You just want the real audio, and that's just Command-Shift-E, and then hit save. And I guess I will either do the third one another day because this is just insane. So hopefully that helped, and we'll see you guys next time. Build our last day stack here, so I will just fast forward through the whole thing, so bear with me. So I selected them all because I noticed that all of these clips seem to be off by 2 frames consecutively. So I'm still going to cross-reference, but as I've just done this long enough that if all the ones at the beginning are off by the same, then in theory, probably most likely all of them following will be. So I just batch moved them. But we are still going to take the time to go back and listen. Alright, so I'm just going to open them so we can see that they're all identical. We have 17 tracks and 3 tracks in the video across the board. We have our LUT in place. We have our audio muted. And everything is aligned in the timeline. So that is pretty much considered complete on that front. We are now going to be working on our interview folder and our subdaystack folder. So to keep our interviews organized, we're going to have an original bin, and we're also going to have a cut, oops, do that every time, cut and transcribed bin. So we are going to use the search engine and figure out where we have interviews. So we have interviews in the first day, so the 28th day, and the 29th day, and that's it. We don't have any in the 30th, so that is awesome. So I'm going to duplicate both of these. They're going to go over here in the original. This is now going to become my interview original. Yeah, and then we're going to open both of these. Move this over for now, and going to remove everything in this timeline that isn't the interview. So I am going to find this spot, use my up and down arrow keys as I previously showed you. Make sure that we're right on this little line. Don't need much video right now, so we can shrink that a bit. I have my hotkey set to Command B for cut all, and everything before this can be removed. We have interview, interview, perfect. These are all interview, awesome. So we're gonna remove that. So this has now become my interview original, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. I think interview start at the beginning on this one. Yep. So everything after this point can now be removed. Awesome. So we're going to close both of these and take it a step further. These are going to be duplicated again and put into the cut and transcribed. I like to label my clips or my timelines before I mess around in them, so it has an indicator of which file I'm changing. Because if this one was open, and I don't know, it just gets messy if you have 2 of the same titles named. So now I know that this one's original and I'm not working in this one, and this is the one that I am editing. So this is where you go in and you kind of get rid of all of the dead information that isn't attached to video. That's part of this. So all this is considered gone. You're basically pre-editing for the editor/director. So if you listen, they're going to be asking the participants questions.
Que je reprenne la question.
So I know that it's in French.
Je dirais que le théâtre.
So that's him answering the question. So we're just going to cut it here. Get rid of all that. And because we have this checked off, it's taking all the clips. So I just need to be working in this view. That's more than fine. And then you just kind of want to scrub through. So he's still talking. So right here, the director is speaking. So we want to cut that out. And that's back to him talking.
C'est à peine soluble.
So you just want to go through and do all that.
Et c'est très simple.
So he stops talking here. She's talking. They're just fixing him.
Mais au besoin, vous me reposez la même question, puis je répondrai à vous. Hein.
They're all just chit-chatting away. Nothing important in here. Still a question. And you can kind of see by the waveforms, like his are nice and bold and everything else is kind of whatever. This is just somebody's laugh, which we don't need. So you can get rid of all of that.
Cycle de création irrégulier. Donc c'est vraiment.
Okay, so they cut him off here.
Avec des cycles de création irréguliers.
So the director said there's a train, so they're going to take a break. So I would just shrink all these. There you go. So that's neat and tidy there. On to the next. So now we're left with something looking like this, which is great. And we remember our handy dandy hotkey. So select all, option C for close gaps. If you don't have that, you have to input it manually. So close gaps, Command C, you just click and you add it. So now we are ready for transcription. We're going to open, I already have it open, but hit window and you hit text and it will open this box. You will be very tempted to transcribe with this button, but that's not what we're looking for. We want to double click on our audio. Our source is going to open, and then this transcription window is going to open, and this is the transcribe button we want to hit. So once we click it, it's going to give us an option to transcribe in the language that we desire, and we're looking for French. We do want to separate the speakers by labeling, and I'm going to choose my mixdown channel. I'm going to hit transcribe. This usually takes a while, so I like to piggyback off of one another, and I'm going to do this one at the same time. This is also going to be French. The reason why we are looking for this transcription instead of this button is because this window will allow you to choose the language, and the other one will just start transcribing and it will look something like this. All these screens are very interactive, they're following one another, so it can be really frustrating. So things to note about this text window is we have our follow active monitor button and our source button. Once you uncheck this, it will no longer be linked to the active monitor, which is our timeline. So this middle clip seems to be done transcribing, but these two on the end, not quite yet. So I'll do the middle one first. We want to uncheck follow active monitor. We want to be working in the source, and I'm going to hit play. Okay, speaker 3 is going to be Lise. Continue along assigning each speaker with the appropriate name until they are all complete. So once transcription is complete and you're done your job, this is what it should look like. You have your follow active monitor button on, and it will follow as the cursor moves throughout the text, and it will bring to the appropriate translation. Now we're working on our last subfolder, the subdaystacks. we are going to break these up by day. So we're going to match this naming convention. So we're 2024, 1028, 2024, 1029, and 2024, 1030. Awesome. Here's all going to go in here. We are going to duplicate each of these, and they're all going to go in their appropriate folder. And essentially we are going to be breaking up the days by various activities. All right, so we're going to start with this one. So the reason that I didn't lock the LUT previously is because when I go break up my day, I like that the LUT comes along with everything. So this is going to be fairly easy because all the interviews have already been done. We're not going to include this empty audio. So everything here considered gone because we've already taken care of it. So now we have our B-roll. So we have our city B-roll. So that's her on a bike, that's her on a bike. So I'm going to break here. So that's going to be my B-roll, and this is all of Winnie on the bike.
Yeah.
Winnie on the bike. And then Winnie inside the building. And back to B-roll. This is all B-roll. Amazing. So we are going to need, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to change the name of these. So I'm going to go 0 is always my B-roll. This is going to be my B-roll timeline. I'm going to duplicate this again. This is going to be Winnie riding her bike. And duplicate this again. And this is going to be Winnie inside TCM building. And this is all in order. So we know that all this is not B-roll and all this is B-roll. So I would just condense, just double check that I in fact didn't miss anything that doesn't belong in this timeline. Perfect. Now opening my Winnie riding her bike. So we know that this was B-roll and this was B-roll. And this is her inside the building. So also remove that, which leaves us with Winnie riding her bike. Amazing. And then the third activity in line was her arriving at the building. So this is awesome for the director because you have the whole days breaking down. We have all the B-roll, so you can quick access flip through. We have her riding her bike, and you can create a storyline with this, and everything is still in chronological order. And we have the next part of the day, which was her walking to the building. So that is nice and easy and done. Hit save. This is considered finished. We're going to be moving on to this day. So again, all these are interviews. We've already got them covered in our interview folder. So all this we can remove, which leaves us with all of this. So this was them in the dressing room doing their little performance. Okay, cool. So I'm going to break this here because this is the one idea. This is close-ups of Allison. They're sitting in front of the mirror. Awesome. So I'm going to break it here where they're all sitting in front of the mirror. I'm just going to leave this as one big sub-day stack. I don't think that it's necessary to break it down in each character in front of the mirror. In some circumstances you would. We can see here how it's the three of them, and then it's just Allison, and then it's just Winnie, and then it's just Colin. But to me, this is the whole, this is all the same idea, just different angles and close-ups of the characters during this scene. So I'm gonna leave this as one big sub-day stack. And the only reason I put her in her own category is because it's a different idea than this stuff. All right, so at the beginning, so this is Winnie walking into the room. All right, so this is Winnie walking in. So I am going to separate this, and I'm going to separate it at the audio. So this is Winnie walking in. This is still them in the room, but it's a different idea. They're just performing at this point. This is her joining them, idea one. Idea two is the actual rehearsal, performance, whatever you want to call it, in the room. And I'm going to leave these grouped. So I'm also going to cut it here because this is going to be tagged along with this stuff. Yeah. Okay, I've changed my mind. I'm going to undo this break. I think that her walking to the room was actually over here, not over here. That was my mistake. So all this is them just in the rehearsal space. She is sitting down part of the conversation, and they're all talking together. And this is her in the hallway walking to them. I do find it kind of strange that these clips are after they've already conversed. But I guess they're just doing a different angle at the end.
Je comprends. Pour moi, c'était mon plus grand amour. Et maintenant, je m'en porte plus. Je comprends.
So when you're chopping these up, just be mindful to not do what I just did here, and don't chop up the audio clips if you don't have to. What is this clip? I think it's just a mistake. This is part of them doing that. Okay, so what I've concluded is they're all together in the dressing room space, and then it's Winnie walking in. Oh, this is messy, isn't it? Because she is walking in, but there's still all together. And then she walks in again. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna undo that again. I think for this, I'm just gonna leave all these together because this is one big idea, and then it changes the setting, and then we have her doing her little acting speech. So all this, all this, all this. I think that this makes the most sense for this day. I will leave in my initial thoughts so that you at least have an example of that's how you could work. But as I was working and putting pieces together, I kind of just figured that this would be the best case scenario. So now that we have established how many day stacks we want, we are going to come in here, duplicate, duplicate, and follow the same naming as this. We don't have B-roll in this one, so I'm going to put 1. So we have Winnie, Colin, and Allison in the dressing room talking. And then we had Winnie, Colin, and Allison in the dressing room in front of the mirror talking. And then we had Allison close up rehearsal in the rehearsal room. This is our third activity. This is our second activity. And then we open all of these, make sure that we do things appropriately. So first things first, delete. So once you have your day stack built, it's kind of nice that everything else just builds itself. All right, so we have exactly what we've written. Them in the dressing room talking, them over here, and them over here. So here, I still have the word day stack involved. You actually don't need that because it's not a day stack, it's your sub day stack. So just go ahead and remove all of those. All right, so this should be looking something like this. So we have our day stacks, we have our interviews, original, cut, and transcribed. We have 2 of the 3 sub day stacks. So I'm going to finish building the last one here. Make sure you close all of your windows so you know which one you're actually working in. All right, so we have them performing in the bleachers. Perfect. So they're in the bleachers. I'm going to cut it at the end of this audio clip because it obviously is the cut of that clip. And so that's them performing in the bleachers, them performing on stage. This is when your arrow keys are nice and handy. It'll bring you right to the appropriate mark. See how I was saying earlier, if you try to add the little triangles, it won't work. All right, so this idea is them in the hallway. Perfect. Them performing in the common room. In the common room. Okay. So I guess I've never mentioned that I like to use my LUT as an indicator of where I'm cutting what. That's why I have it and I don't lock it, so I can chunk things together very visually, because without these, I'm going through and I don't have indication of what's being cut where. So that's just my little hot tip, to use that as a reference point. So this is them performing in the garage. And they're going to be in the hallway pretty soon. Okay, cool. So that's them in the hallway. And I guess we have B-roll at the end, which is nice. Okay, so we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different. So we'll do this one a little bit differently. I'm gonna have 0 for B-roll. This is gonna become 1. So the first one was them, Kanaya, Allison, and Winnie performing in the bleachers at TCM building, obviously. So this is my 0 B-roll timeline. This one was a duplicate, so it's exactly the same. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything in that. And since this is now my empty timeline, I'm going to duplicate the empty one with the new name. I'm going to change this to 2, remove this. So now these are empty and it has no naming convention. So I'm just going to keep going until I hit 7. So this is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I like to do this, so they're all empty, and then I can change the names. You can kind of do whichever order you want. You can do one at a time, do name, copy paste, name, copy paste, or if you remember everything, you can change all the names. So I know that this is gonna be performing on stage. So B-roll's at the end, so we can worry about that later. So we have all of this performing in the bleachers, correct? Don't need that anymore. I'm gonna undo that because, oh no, that was fine. So this is them performing on stage. Perfect. This is them in the hallway, so put that TCM here. Just didn't open it. So it's nice that we can copy paste because we have everything labeled accordingly and everything in its spot. So this one is them performing in the common room. And I'm trying to keep this naming convention the same. Like, I don't want to go Allison, Winnie, Colin, and then Colin, Allison, Winnie, and then Winnie, Allison, Colin. You want them to be consistent with the naming convention, as we've established multiple times. All right, so I guess I never copied this one over. So this is them performing in the garage. And then this one's going to be performing in the hallway. Not so performing in the hallway. Okay, so we're gonna change this one. Colin and Winnie walking out from the hallway from backstage. There we go. That's better. I think that's more fitting. All right. Okay, so we had decided that Colin, Allison, and Winnie walking out from backstage at TCM is more fitting, which leaves us with them here in the hallway. So I need to open this timeline and this one for now. So we're going to put them in the garage, sorry. And then we have them in the hallway. That's a long one. Just gonna make sure that I grab them all. Amazing. And then that leaves us with B-roll, which is already where we want it to be. So I guess I have an extra timeline here, so just feel free to remove that. So I'm just going to close this one and just reopen them in chronological order. So we have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What happened here? Well, that's fine. Good thing we checked, right? So I guess I will just go back and get it in my timeline. So we were missing Winnie in the bleachers. So that was the first activity. So that would have been here. Make sure we don't delete it out of that timeline now. I like to have my day stacks fully pretty. So this one can now leave, and I'm glad we checked. And then we have our B-roll. Hit save. So that honestly completes all of your hard work, we are going to color code everything. I like to hand off my sessions with all the windows closed and not zoomed in on any timelines because it's just much more appealing to receive from a director standpoint. Okay, so the one last thing you can do is proxies. And generating proxies is kind of like a pre-buffered version of the working video file. So it will make your editing or the director's editing job a lot quicker instead of waiting for the videos to load. So see how it's kind of laggy? It's not like a smooth transition, is very choppy. So this is your proxy button. We don't have any proxies made at the moment, but we will make them. So how you do that is you right click, proxy, create proxies. So I'm just gonna show you guys on a different window what a proxy is. So it's a smaller, lowered resolution copy of the original footage that is used to make editing process faster and easier, which is exactly what we like, faster and easier. All right, so it's finally opened my media encoder, and this is what it looks like. So you can see that it's creating the proxy job, and I do this at the very end of my session, basically when I'm going home, because you can't work on Premiere when it's creating your proxy job. And if you have this running in the background, it just slows your computer down completely. So to me, this is my final step in the process. And you can pretty much just leave your computer running overnight and come back to it the next day. And once this is all complete, you would go toggle on your proxy buttons. You upload your completed files to the appropriate hard drive that your editor is going to be working off of. And as we started this project, I said make sure you have copies of all of your work as backup. This is included in this session. You want backups of your logged footage, backup of your daystack session, and backups of your naming convention file in case anything gets lost or damaged. You have something to fall back onto. Congrats on all your hard work. You have a short final class on how to prep your drives for your director, and you are all done. Class dismissed.